Imagine this. You're standing in a room full of people, all eyes on you. The pressure's mounting, your heart is racing, and yet you stand tall. You move with purpose, speak with confidence, and act as though you've already made it. The truth, you haven't, not yet, but it doesn't matter, because how you carry yourself in that moment right now will shape the future you're walking into. Today, we're going to talk about the most powerful secret to success that no one tells you: acting as if isn't pretending. It's the key to transforming potential into reality. It's about training your mind and actions to be the person you aspire to be, even before the world sees you as that person. So I ask you, who do you want to become, and are you willing to act like that person today? Discipline is not glamorous, it doesn't make headlines, it doesn't get applause, and yet it is the foundation beneath every real success story. Before the reward, before the promotion, before the recognition, there is discipline. Quiet, relentless, undeniable, you don't rise by chance. You rise by choice, the choice to be consistent when it's uncomfortable, to be sharp when no one's watching, and to do the right thing when it's the harder path. If you wait until the rewards come to start acting like a professional, you'll never get there. Because those who win have already trained themselves to think, move, and live like winners long before anyone handed them a title. When I was in basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, we learned quickly that discipline wasn't something you turned on during the mission. It was forged in the cold surf of Coronado, in the early hours before dawn, in how we folded our uniforms, how we stood in formation, how we treated our teammates. You can't flip a switch when the stakes are high if you haven't wired your brain to operate with discipline when the stakes are low. You want the job, start showing up like you already have it. That means being the first one in and the last one out. That means putting in the work even when the motivation's gone. That means mastering the basics: your time, your body, your word. Especially your word. Discipline means keeping promises to yourself not when it's convenient, but when it's hard. Because if you can't trust yourself, why should anyone else? The real separator in life isn't talent. It's not luck, it's not timing, it's who's willing to suffer through the monotony of training when nobody's watching. You do push-ups not because someone's counting, but because you said you would. You study not because the test is tomorrow, but because you want to master the craft. That's discipline, doing the work when there's no guarantee of a payoff, but knowing in your gut it will matter. The people at the top, they aren't there by accident. They didn't wake up one day and stumble into success. They built habits that carried them forward on days when their emotions would have held them back. They chose discipline over comfort, repetition over shortcuts, integrity over applause, and here's the truth most people don't want to hear: the reward doesn't make you disciplined. It reveals whether you were disciplined to begin with, because when you finally make it, when the pressure is real, when the spotlight is on you, fall back on your training. And if your training is weak, your performance will be too. So if you're waking up early, showing up strong, and holding the line while no one's clapping good, that's the test. That's the filter. Because the man or woman who embraces the grind now will carry the crown later. Discipline is the down payment. Reward is just the receipt. Before the world will ever see you as a winner, you have to carry yourself like one. That doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean faking confidence or pretending to know everything. It means standing, walking, and acting like someone who knows where they're going even when the destination isn't clear yet. Your posture, your tone, your presence, these are the first things the world reads. And in this life, perception often opens doors before performance ever gets the chance to. Walk into a room with your shoulders back, eyes forward, and head held high. Not because you think you're better, but because you respect yourself. Because you're telling the room, without saying a word, I belong here. That kind of posture doesn't come from ego. It comes from preparation, from knowing you've done the work, from knowing you're not perfect, but you're progressing every single day. In the military, you learn early on that the way you carry yourself determines how others treat you and whether they follow you. Confidence, composure, clarity, these are not gifts, they are decisions. Every time you show up with your shirt tucked, your words measured, your presence grounded, you're sending a signal. You're telling the world you're not waiting to be chosen, you've already chosen yourself. People respond to posture, they follow strength, They lean into certainty, and here's the truth. You don't need a title to start acting like a leader. You don't need an invitation to step up. Start with how you carry your body. Winners don't slouch. They don't avoid eye contact. They don't mumble through their sentences like they're apologizing for existing. They speak with intent. They move with direction. They show respect, but they don't shrink. Carrying the posture of a winner also means emotional control. It means that when chaos hits, you're the calm in the storm. It means that when others panic, you breathe deeper. When others complain, you strategize. Posture is not just physical, it's mental. It's spiritual. It's how you hold yourself together under pressure, how you carry your values when it's tempting to drop them. It also means owning your space. Whether you're in a boardroom, on a battlefield, or standing in front of your team, you occupy the ground you stand on with purpose. You speak clearly, listen actively, and never rush to fill the silence. Winners know they don't have to shout to be heard. Their presence does most of the talking. There's a kind of gravity that winners carry. You feel it when they enter the room, not because they're loud, but because they're grounded. You know they've paid the price in private. You know they're not just acting like they've made it, they're preparing like it's already theirs. Carrying the posture of a winner is about commanding respect without demanding it, about walking with integrity even when no one is clapping, about being someone others want to follow even before the victory is won. Everyone wants the big win, the promotion, the medal, the breakthrough moment. But what most people overlook is that success doesn't come in leaps, it comes in inches. It's not built in the spotlight, it's built in the shadows, in the quiet repetition of small, deliberate actions done right and done often. The way you do the little things is the way you do everything. And if you can't get the little things right, don't expect the big ones to fall into place. In SEAL training, we were told to make our beds with precision every single morning. Corners tight, blanket folded, pillow centered. It seemed trivial, but it wasn't about the bed, it was about the habit. If you can't take care of the first task of your day, how are you going to handle the 100 others that follow? Small habits build discipline. Discipline builds consistency, and consistency builds outcomes. You want to lead a team? Start by showing up 5 minutes early every day, not just when it matters, but when it's boring. You want to build a business? Start by managing your time like it's capital, because it is. You want to get stronger? Start by refusing to skip the workouts when you're tired, because that's when it counts the most. The great ones separate themselves in the details, not the speeches, not the ceremonies, but the daily grind that no one else is willing to endure. Success isn't a switch you flip. It's a series of small hinges that open big doors. Habits like saying thank you, like listening more than you talk, like finishing what you start, they may seem minor, but they become your identity over time, and your identity is what you fall back on when things get hard. It's what holds you steady when the pressure's up and the spotlight's on. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are just your habits repeated daily, the way you start your mornings, how you handle failure, how you treat people when you have nothing to gain. Winners don't hope their way into victory. They habit their way into it. Every rep in the gym, every clean line of code, every page read before bed, it adds up. The compound effect of daily effort will crush raw talent that shows up only when it feels like it. It's easy to talk about vision. It's harder to show up day after day and execute the same fundamentals without cutting corners. That's where greatness lives, not in the grand gestures, but in the grind. In waking up and deciding you're going to do it right again and again, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. Because those small habits, repeated with intention, are what sharpen you into someone who not only chases results, but earns them. Leadership isn't about the stripes on your sleeve, the stars on your shoulder, or the nameplate on your desk. It's not about rank, position, or title. Real leadership starts long before the recognition comes. It starts in the way you carry yourself, the standards you uphold, and the example you set when no one's keeping score. The best leaders are often the ones who step up before anyone asks them to. In the military, The most respected leaders weren't always the ones with the highest rank. They were the ones who stayed behind to clean up. The ones who checked on their teammates after hours. The ones who never asked anyone to do something they weren't willing to do themselves. Leadership is service, not status. It's earned through action, not assigned through authority. If you're waiting for a title before you start leading, you've already missed the point. Leadership isn't granted, it's demonstrated. It starts with how you show up, how you take ownership, and how you influence those around you through effort and example. You don't need a corner office to set the tone. You don't need a formal role to build trust, lift others, and raise the standard. People notice how you operate when the spotlight isn't on you. They notice who speaks up when it's uncomfortable. They notice who steps forward when things go wrong. Leaders take responsibility before they're given responsibility. They do what needs to be done not for recognition, but because they understand that leadership is about the mission and the team first. You lead in how you respond to setbacks, in how you carry yourself when things fall apart, in how you treat people who have nothing to offer you. You lead by doing the hard thing when the easy way is wide open. That kind of leadership doesn't need a business card. It shows up in your discipline, your consistency, your courage. And over time, people start to follow not because they have to, but because they trust you. The reality is, not everyone who wears a title leads, and not everyone who leads wears a title. Leadership is not about waiting your turn. It's about showing that you're ready when the moment calls. It's about owning your impact, even if your name isn't on the door. It's about making the people around you better, whether or not you get the credit. The best teams are built around people who lead from every level, people who take initiative without being told, who take care of the details without being reminded, who hold the line when things get hard and carry the weight when it needs to be carried. You don't need to be in charge to act like you're responsible for the outcome. You don't need a title to lead like the mission depends on you, because sometimes it does, and no one's coming to give you permission to rise to the occasion. Leadership isn't tested when everything is going according to plan. It's tested when nothing is. When the mission falls apart, when the plan breaks down, when the clock is ticking, and everyone's looking around for answers, that's when the real leaders emerge. Not the ones with the most experience. Not the ones with the loudest voice. The ones who can take pressure, channel it, and lead through it. Pressure is a crucible. It exposes the unprepared and tempers the disciplined. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training. And if that training is weak, the cracks will show. Pressure isn't the enemy, it's the proving ground. It reveals whether your foundation was built on hype or on hard work, whether you've been rehearsing excuses or rehearsing excellence. In combat training, they teach you to breathe under chaos, not metaphorically, literally. Deep, controlled breaths, even when rounds are flying and your heart is pounding out of your chest, because panic is contagious. So is calm. The leader doesn't just control the situation, the leader controls themselves. That's where it starts. If you can't manage your own fear, you'll never manage the fear of others, and leadership without emotional control is just noise under stress. Pressure shows up in many forms: deadlines, expectations, uncertainty, responsibility. It doesn't always come with bullets and sirens. Sometimes it's a silent weight that sits on your chest at 3 a.m. when everyone else is asleep and you're still carrying the load. But pressure is the only environment where leadership becomes more than theory. When decisions have consequences, when your actions ripple beyond you, when failure isn't an option and hesitation is a liability. True leadership isn't about comfort, it's about capacity. Can you operate under stress and still make the right call? Can you take the hits and keep moving forward? Can you stand in the fire and think clearly while others melt down? That's the measure. Not how loud you talk when the room is quiet, but how steady you are when the room is on fire. Pressure also separates pretenders from professionals. Anyone can lead when it's easy, but when the heat gets turned up, only those who have done the work rise to the surface. They don't crumble, they don't shift blame, and they don't disappear. They lean in. Because pressure doesn't scare them, it sharpens them. They've been there before, they've trained for it, and while the stakes may be higher, the standard doesn't change. You learn more about a person in 5 minutes of pressure than in 5 hours of comfort. You see what they're really made of. And the ones who endure, who decide to stand firm instead of folding those, are the ones who become leaders not because of their title, but because of how they perform when everything's on the line. There's a common misconception that acting as if is about faking something you're not. That couldn't be further from the truth. In the military, there's no tolerance for pretending. You don't fake readiness, and you don't fake leadership. You train for it. You prepare for it. You become it before the world ever recognizes it. That's what acting as if really means. It's mental rehearsal for the real fight. It's stepping into the role before someone hands it to you, because when the moment comes, there won't be time to get ready. You'll either be ready or you won't. When a young cadet walks into a leadership role for the first time, no one expects perfection, but they do expect presence. They expect responsibility. They expect that cadet to act with the bearing of someone who studied the weight of the role. That posture isn't fake. It's practiced. And the more you practice the behaviors of someone who's already made it, the more you train your mind and body to handle the pressure when it's real. Think of a pilot in a flight simulator. The cockpit is fake, the terrain is fake, but the stress, the decisions, the protocols, those are real. You don't wait until you're 10-0. You're 0 feet in the air to learn what to do in an emergency. You simulate it over and over until it becomes second nature. That's what acting as if really is. It's the simulator for success. You're not lying to yourself. You're training your system to perform under pressure. You want to be a leader, then carry yourself like one now. Before the rank, before the title, that means you speak with intention, you hold the standard, you think beyond yourself, and when things go wrong, you don't point fingers, you find solutions. Not because someone told you to, but because that's who you're becoming. You act like the person who would already have the job, already make the decision, already carry the weight. People confuse humility with smallness, but there's nothing humble about shrinking from your potential. Acting as if isn't about arrogance, it's about accountability. It means you're willing to hold yourself to a standard higher than your current position. You don't dress for the job you have, you dress for the job you want. You don't prepare like someone who might get the call. You prepare like someone who knows it's coming and refuses to be caught unready. You don't need a spotlight to train for pressure. You don't need applause to walk with purpose. You show up sharp, think sharp, and move with intention, not because it impresses people, but because it forges you into someone who doesn't flinch when the real test comes. The more seriously you take the role before it's official, the more natural it feels when it becomes reality. Because by the time you get there, you've already lived it in your mind, rehearsed it in your habits, and shown up every day like someone who belongs there. Acting as if is not about pretending, but about preparing. It's about stepping into the role you want before anyone hands it to you. By cultivating the habits, mindset, and discipline of the person you aim to become, you're training yourself to succeed under pressure. It's not arrogance, it's intentional growth. The world won't wait for you to be ready. You have to act like you already are. Through consistent practice, leadership, and resilience, you'll build the foundation that allows you to meet the moment when it arrives, ready to take on the responsibility with confidence.